Caddy Media, and it's day 6 of the Rolex Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race. This will be our final update for this year's race. As we have 99 yachts arrived, they've crossed the finish line and arrived here in Hobart, and we've got one yacht still remaining out at sea, and that's of course the 30-footer two-hander Currawong, which will...
Mighty Currawong.
Yes, which we're all following very closely. As two very, very impressive women are on that yacht. So we'll talk a bit more about them in a moment, but before we get there, it's another beautiful day here in Hobart. I can't believe it. The weather we've had has been like different to every other year. Normally we're cold and rugged up, and it's just
Even
beautiful.
when it's sunny, but the first 3 days was ridiculous. It got a little cool and then it's just come back good again in the last day. So
absolutely
fantastic.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So we got to interview quite a lot of the yachts that arrived in yesterday, some of the smaller fleet. Do you want to talk a bit more about their stories and what you learnt from them?
Yes, I mean, one of the fun bits of this race actually is the sort of last few boats in, and nearly all of them have got lots of backstories. They're nearly all people who've been doing this for donkey's years. And it was lovely to see Maluka come in, Peter Langman, Sean Langman's son. A really fantastic day for the family, actually, as it turned out, because 2 divisional wins for Maluka and Moneypenny, father and son. And Peter brought a bunch of his mates, including some who'd never sailed before. I was not sure I'd be launching straight into Sydney Hobart if I'd never sailed before, but that was impressive. The cracking little White Bay 6 Azuro. Very sad Shane Cairns' last race, but a wonderful crew there, and we spoke to them, and we'll speak to Shane later. Crux, lovely little story there. I'm slightly unfortunate when they realised they'd gone around the wrong seaward mark and actually had to head back. We were watching them from the chopper and thinking that looks wrong, but still, in fact, actually got a win at the end of all of that too. Gunrunner, the Army, they're fantastic. I mean, that, as Chris Connolly says, they do that on the smell of an oily rag. It is a very old boat, but it still gets here in good shape, and we'd had a nice interview with Chris about
really
that as well. And then Currawong, yes, Kathy Veal and Bridget Canham, 2 of them adventurers, decided to take on a Sydney Hobart as a two-hander in a boat like that, and they're just quietly working their way down, and with any luck they'll be here sometime in the early hours of tomorrow morning possibly. But the small boats have got great stories here.
Yeah. So do we want to talk a bit about our final impressions of
absolutely.
this year's race?
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
No, you go first.
Okay, I'll go. All right. We just, as our last day update, we wanted to talk about our overall feeling of this year's race, and a couple of things really stood out to me this year that I really understood to a whole new level. And the first thing, of course, is understanding the preparation. I didn't really grasp that before, but the amount of preparation in the months and months that lead up to the race that goes into this, that goes into creating a campaign. You know, you hear about the planning that goes into it, and the certifications and the safety protocols, and of course all the repairs and maintenance. You know, people working round the clock in the week up to it, trying to get everything ready last minute. It's
lead up races, training. You know, it goes on and on. Don't mind the background there. It is. I mean, that's the thing. And it doesn't matter what size boat you're in. You can be doing it in a super maxi or a little 30-footer. You've still actually got to go through exactly the same processes.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The other thing, of course, which I mentioned yesterday, but I'll mention again, is the atmosphere here in Hobart. And of course, I've always known that there's a lot of atmosphere here. They set up the race village so well. They've got DJs, they've got food tents, they've got wine tastings.
They've got live commentary as well, which is Peter G and crew there. Peter Shipway and so on, really good professional crew. They get Q&As and get their top yachties in. It really is fantastic. And
what I didn't really appreciate before this week was how unique that is compared to other races, which a lot of the crew and skippers that we've spoken to have all said that it's what makes this race, one of the reasons that this race is so special, which is great. And the other thing that I can't get past is the emotion that's associated with this race, particularly for those who have tried over and over and over again and then finally take out a win in their division or an overall win. It's just so emotional because of the effort that goes into it. But you've also got other emotions like laughter and the camaraderie of the crew having gone through something as wild as this race. They all become so much closer afterwards and have this deep respect for each other on board. And there's just so much feeling and emotion that goes around this race. It's beautiful.
You sort of see the winners tearing up, and then you find yourself tearing up as well, because it's pretty cool. They're wonderful stories.
And the animation in their faces, they're talking about something having broken and how last minute they all had to come together to find a way to fix something that's broken on the yacht. It's beautiful. Do you have anything else to add in terms of impressions?
Look, for mine, I mean, it just goes on reinforcing exactly those points. This is second to none. Tom Caneen said, the Englishman who arrived here with all-conquering sunrise JPK, and he said, I just cannot believe the reception we received here, and that's quite true. It is absolutely something completely special. A couple of things that really interested me in all our interviews was just about every boat on this race broke its speed record. And some by margins you'd think that's not possible in a boat like that. So we had the guys on Crux talking about rooster tails, and I going, as S&S 34 with a rooster tail? Sure enough. They clocked their best, Azuro clocked their best. Pretty much every yacht got a highest speed, and you'll have heard that in the interviews. I think, like you, the preparation is the thing that just keeps going. We spoke to Ty Oxley, and you just realised, that for the boat captains particularly, they've got so much work to do over months and months and months, organising everything from the basic preparation through to the engineering, like Ty's sort of working in goodness knows how many different areas at the same time. Paul McGee on Wild Oats, the same thing. They've got to be across everything from the food to the prep of the boat to, the safety stuff and everything else as well. And yes, of course, when you've gone to all of that effort, the emotion is obvious because you've been trying so hard. So, yep, like you, it just goes on reminding me how wonderful this race is. I've been covering it in some form since 2004, and I just never tire of being here. Absolutely love it. Even as we're speaking, there's people all around us looking at the yachts behind us. You just don't get that close to anything, I don't think, anywhere else in the world. Wonderful.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, we thought
one thing I should say. Sorry, the beginning
I keep doing that to you.
Yes,
sorry.
No, that's okay. I just suddenly thought there was one thing I hadn't talked about, which is this sort of the business about coming to Hobart and doing this race. And I've done 3, got here twice, and it's not fun. Generally, there's bits of fun, but there's an awful lot of stuff that isn't fun. But the beginning, in that coming out of the harbour with all of that crowd around on the cliffs, you won't get that anywhere else. The boats around you, the sense of this being an absolutely epic sporting event, then all of the kind of, just serious hard challenge down, but then getting here. And if anybody's ever thinking about doing an ocean race, this has got to be on your bucket list. It really is a wonderful race to do, and everybody speaks of it that way. So don't hesitate. If you're anywhere around the world and this opportunity arises, come and give it a go at some point. It's so worth it. Yeah. Yeah,
and we've spoken a lot about the reception here in Hobart, but we've also got to mention at race start in Sydney. All the spectator boats, and then you've got across all of the headlands. There's millions of people
12
watching.
Helicopters up in the air, and we were in one. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's just pretty amazing to experience. Now, before we wrap up, I just wanted to mention it's not just us who are part of Balcaddy. Of course, there's a lot of other people involved in ensuring that we get enough coverage to you. Of course, I'd firstly like to welcome Dale onto the stage. Sorry, Dale. Dale's really important to mention because, of course, as the co-producer, Dale is also our drone pilot. She's also our videographer, our video editor, our production manager, general coordination of all of us.
And videographer.
Yep.
Shoots all the aerial stuff as well as the drones.
Yeah, and puts together some really, really spectacular high quality videos. I also want to bring Jake on, as much as he probably doesn't want to be in camera. Jake is a videographer and photographer, and of course very instrumental in a couple of areas. One, he's a human gimbal. We don't understand if we don't have a gimbal or a steady cam on hand. Jake is it. So that steady footage is all just Jake. And of course he's 6'3" and very handy in a media scrum with his reach.
Nobody argues with Jake once he's got his slot.
Yeah, so couldn't do it without him. Of course, Crosby, as well as a presenter, photographer, writer, also the co-producer of Balcaddy Media. And there's a couple of other people we need to mention.
Then we should talk about Wendy.
Oh.
And then we can add the add-on. So, and Wendy too, obviously doing the presentation with me, runs all our socials, helps with the video editing, shoots stuff on the phone. At the start of the race there, some of that epic footage. She had 2 cameras up, one in portrait mode, one in landscape, so that she was catching stuff for socials. Really good at managing that whole side, so thank you, Wendy, for that, and obviously a very accomplished presenter as well.
Oh, that's very kind, thank you. We also need to mention Stu, who's our driver in Sydney and really helps us get great footage on any race that we cover, so a special thank you to Stu. And of course we've got to thank Stephen, another videographer who's in Sydney, we've got some great footage from him, so thank you, Stephen. And of course, we've got Lucas, Dean, and Graham, our drone spotters and catchers, who
Very
we couldn't do it
important job,
without.
that one.
Yeah, pretty scary job at times. So yeah, we just wanted to say thank you from the whole Balcaddy team.
Yeah, and a quick thank you too. There's lots of people in lead-up stuff, like Niall Kent. She did some fantastic boat work for us as well. I think we love about the boat drivers we use with Stewie and Niall is they're experienced yachties. They know where they can put us. They know where we need not to be. Sometimes they even scare us a little bit with where they get us, but they absolutely know their skill set. So that's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. It's oh, and of course we have to mention the star of the show, Spiky Mike, who features in every video. Couldn't do it without you, Spiky. And yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in. We've got more footage still coming to cover the race, but this is our final update.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.